Gareth laughed when I picked this one up because I finally bought an Eaglemoss model from Cosmic Toys. It was this one, a Xindi Insectoid ship. Let's have a closer look. Well, it's been a minute since I did an Eaglemoss unboxing, but here we go. Now, you might have seen this on a Cosmic Toys pickup I did the other day, but this is a Xindi Insectoid Warship, and it's a curious one for Eaglemoss because this is a standard size Eaglemoss box, and as you can see, it's double the normal depth. The width is more or less usual, but the height, the depth is doubled because I think just because of the configuration of the ship, and because I guess they wanted to make it their standard length to fit in with the stand size, so they had to kind of go up in order for it to be correct, basically, in terms of the way they normally do these things. So let me pop it out because I don't have this. I've no idea where I'm going to display it, mind, but it's within my, as you may be familiar by now, it's within my sort of permissible ships list, in the sense that it is an Enterprise era model. So it is one of the ones that I would typically allow myself to get because I just don't veer beyond the, what I tend to call like classic Trek in my head canon. So basically, pre-Kelvin. Now, it's got a sort of diagonally held stand there. That's surprisingly light for an Eaglemoss model, actually. That's metal. I think these elements, the central elements, are metal, but the wings are plastic. I say wings; they may not actually be. They've probably got no aerodynamic effect whatsoever. But now interestingly, although I didn't get the magazine from Gareth, I did actually already have it in my general collection of magazines that I've somehow acquired between my own good catch between my own gatherings and the sort of the overall auction haul that I got a little while back now. As you can see there, they call it a Xindi Insectoid vessel per the stand, but I believe this just slots on around about there. And there we have the rather nice Xindi Insectoid vessel. And I like the trilateral symmetry on it. That I thought was pretty cool. I just got this from Gareth because it was going pretty cheaply, and just noticed that unusual model that I hadn't picked up before because I wasn't particularly trying to get all the Xindi ships. But I think I've got some other examples. I'm just looking across. Yeah, I do have some other examples from the Enterprise era, although not all of the Xindi ones, because some of them are less interesting than this one. But I thought this was quite an interesting one, and I'll show you the magazine now because the magazine's quite interesting. I often wonder with these things, just how much they can actually write about the creation of these ships and sort of the whys and the wherefores, because at the end of the day, it's not what you would call a hero ship. So why would you go to huge lengths to put the backstory behind it? But I must admit, I haven't read every single one of these that I've got, and I've just discovered, having had a little sort through today, I've got more than I thought, and quite a solid run of them actually. But I haven't read all of them. But they are really, really nice. I mean, if you've never picked up any of these, then do have a think about it. And this was a relatively early one. So we've got Xindi Insectoid Warship. I smiled at this, Origin, The Expanse, and I'm thinking, that's a different TV show. But obviously they came from an area of space called The Expanse before The Expanse came on TV, and obviously it was books before that as well. So anyway, moving on. Length 150 meters, propulsion, subspace vortex drive, impulse engines, particle cannons, torpedoes. Now, the subspace vortex drive is an interesting one because I've now read through this, and what I hadn't appreciated was that they were getting a lot of help from their trans-dimensional alien friends who build the spheres. If you're not familiar, this is Enterprise Season 3, and there was a big sort of ongoing storyline, basically, that involves the Xindi, who are actually 5 races but collectively were the Xindi. And they were being helped quite a lot by a more advanced race from the future who were trying to engineer, it was part of the sort of temporal wars basically, they were trying to engineer things in their favour. So it turns out that all of the Xindi ships were equipped with this vortex drive that was like the Borg transwarp conduits. So they didn't have traditional warp drive like the Enterprise did. And apparently whilst this was allowed them to go very rapidly, it was quite an unstable system and did lead to some casualties sometimes. So they're not configured with these sort of normal Star Trek trope of sort of bilateral warp nacelles like the NX-01 here. So the Xindi could sort of depart from that. But without their temporally displaced friends helping them with that technology, apparently that technology then just got lost when the sphere makers were defeated. So quite an interesting one. And here we've got quite a lot of backstory around the Xindi life cycle as well. They're an insectoid race, these guys who run these sorts of ships, and inside their ships is a very heavily armoured hatchery because they reproduce asexually and have a relatively short lifespan. So when they need to lay their eggs, they need to lay their eggs. So they may do that inside their ships. And there was a whole episode where the Enterprise came across a crashed Xindi ship whose crew had sacrificed itself to save the hatchery, effectively. And then the little baby insectoids then go on to imprint themselves, or we've forced the humans to imprint themselves on the insectoid babies. And that was the whole thing of that particular episode. I think that's all covered off in this magazine. So again, you do get quite a lot of background in the magazines that you wouldn't otherwise benefit from if you just got models. But it's it's a cool ship. And originally, as you can see here, it was going to have these much longer sort of spiky sort of arms, but they got shrunk down because somebody just said, yeah, I like it, but just sort of bring it back a bit. And this was John Eves' design. So he actually incorporated a sort of a crab aesthetic to it, as well as the general kind of insectoid, crickety sort of ideas. And apparently these guys were quite warlike. These are probably the strongest Xindi ships, bar the aquatics. So they were intentionally quite nasty, and obviously aesthetically designed to look like that. And it was the first time as well, I think, that they'd used wholly CG characters on the show as well. So there aren't any physical insectoids, they're all CG generated because the virtual effects had kind of got to that point when Enterprise was made that they could get away with that. So we've still got guys in suits who are sort of providing the motion capture for the insectoids on set to give people a reference, but that was as far as it went. There were no guys in suits being insectoids, and these are the little baby ones there. So again, it's cool to have the physical issues that the ships came with. And I'm fortunate to have a reasonably solid run of them. And as I say, some of them come from when I was actually buying direct from Eaglemoss when they were still around, but others I've just randomly picked up over time. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when all's said and done. So I haven't done one of those for a while. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to... I've still got some ships that I haven't displayed and haven't got out of their boxes. I'm not sure if I've got magazines for them. So when I've got some more time, I'll have to do a bit of a cross-check, and then maybe I could do some more unboxings. But as this one was to hand, and I was having to sort through the magazines, and I came across this, I thought it would be rude not to do another little Eaglemoss video, which I haven't done for a while. So that's it for that one. And as I say, I may well get around to some others in due course. Perhaps when the nights start to draw in a little bit. I'll have a bit more free time then. All right, cheers for now.